was officially the first event being conducted by us for this academic year, and surely not the last. Now, before I introduce our speaker for the day, I strongly suggest you guys actually focus up on this particular session because this is great stuff and are not binge watching something in the background. Surely, House of the Dragon and the Boys got interesting, but this is going to be, from our side at least, the best we can do, and we ensure that this will be really beneficial for every single one of you here today. So don't feel shy because it's going to be an extremely interactive session. And raise your hands, and we let you guys speak to the speaker, and you can ask your doubts at any point of the time. So with that being said, I introduce our speaker with great pleasure, Mr. Hariharan S, and VIT Chennai graduate with an extraordinary CGPA of 9 and above, and currently working as a software engineer at PayU. So Hari, I pass on to you.
Thank you, Joshua. So, firstly, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. It's always a pleasure to be back with VIT, and especially after 3 long years away from Chennai and working in Bangalore, I'm missing the college life and missing the whole college touch a lot. So, it's great to be here. And as Joshua said, I heard that it's vacation time for you guys, and despite that, I see a very impressive headcount today. It's around 30-40 people. So, good stuff. So, thank you to all the student coordinators for making this event happen, and thanks to Dr. Syed for inviting me. I don't know if he has joined. So, thank you, everyone. So without further ado, let's just get started with the session. So I'm looking to share my screen. I'm not able to. Could you please give me the controls, kind of? Yep, works. So hope you guys are able to see my screen. So could you guys just give me a heads up whether you guys are able to see?
Yes, visible from my end.
Right. Okay, so let's just before we start with the session, let's just have a brief prelude on why we need this session, like why we need to have the discussion on keeping up with industry trends and why do you need industry guidance. So just a couple of years ago, I used to be a student just like you guys, and I used to have so many common questions. Am I doing what the industry really needs? So I'm writing some research papers. So are these really useful? So in my project, I'm using X or Y tech stack. So is it really relevant? So I used to have a variety of questions like these, and I used to start off by going and asking my peers, following what they're doing. Then I reached out to my professors. But ultimately, after some time, I realized that it is best to go and ask those in the industry itself. So today I come to you as one such guide who has worked in the industry for a couple of years. So have my experience in a variety of subdomains. Uh, so I just want to guide you guys and share some knowledge on the industry trends in data science. So I will be sharing the knowledge with you based on experiences in my own journey. So I worked with various sectors like the private sector. I worked with the public sector. I've also written my thesis with international institutions such as the University of Newcastle in Australia, and I've also published some research work. So I've had my feathers in a variety of bags during my college and professional life. So hopefully I can share and condense some knowledge with you, and you find something good to take home. So the agenda of today's meeting will be, starting with what the data science thought process is all about. So how does the way a data scientist think contrast with the way an ordinary person thinks? So we'll be starting off with the foundations and moving on to understand the various industry verticals in India. So what are the various industries? What are some of the major companies in these industry verticals? So we'll be understanding about that. Then we'll be looking at some popular business use cases. So some generic use cases, what are the various specific problems that data science is solving in the industry. Then we'll be looking at one case study on authentication systems. So pretty much, let's say you get an internship tomorrow. So I'll just give you an idea of how the environment is going to be. So what is going to be like the team size or something that you're expecting, and what is going to be the expectation from you, and how you can go about solving this problem statement. So designing an authentication system, this will be like we'll explore all the possibilities using a case study. Then we'll be talking about the practical career paths in India. So after your BTech, like what are the options that you have in hand? So you're going to the job market, you're going into like MS. So we'll be talking about that. Then we'll be talking about some trends in the Indian job market. So how the industry has been performing this year, what can you expect when you graduate, and so on. And before we close off, we'll be talking about the future trends, some things to look forward to in the industry. Maybe you could like follow these trends and skill up, and make your skills top notch. So let's just first get started with the contrast between how a data scientist thinks and how an ordinary person thinks. To demonstrate this idea, I want to bring out a question. So it's a question that you might have had. It's a question that I've definitely had when I was in college, and it's nothing other than, let's consider the hypothetical question of, will I get a super dream placement? So if I came and asked you, what are the chances that you will get a super dream placement? So how would you go about like breaking down this question, and how would you like assign, okay, these are my chances, there's a good chance, but how would you go about like reasoning this? So maybe someone could maybe step up and you could tell your thought process. Anyone? I'm sure you would have thought about this. So
Hello, sir. Sir, I would
yeah,
like to put forth my thought process.
right,
So, first of all, I would first look at my skill set. I
correct,
would first analyze that, okay, this is some skills that I am well equipped with. And
right.
I would analyze that what is the demand of those skills in the current job market. And if they have pretty decent demand, then I would obviously, it means that I have a better chance of cracking a super dream placement. Also, I would look into the opportunities provided by my colleges, the companies that visited, and also if those companies fit into the relevancy of my skills. This would be the general thought process that I would be going
Right, great
through.
stuff, great stuff. So what's your name, by the way? Sorry.
I'm Manas.
Manas, okay, thank you, Manas. Great thought process. So, apart
Thank
from
you.
Manas, anyone wants to share some other, thought process that you would have to decide whether you have a good chance, you have a bad chance?
Uh, Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah, so my thought process in this situation will be that first, I will find total number of super dream placements offered in the university.
superb, superb. Yeah,
Then I will find, for example, like a CGPA range that okay, where the maximum concentrate, like what is like a threshold CGPA above median where maximum super dream placements are offered. And if I fit in both these categories, like if I have a CGPA above that, then I will have a good idea of the probability of finding a super dream placement for myself.
superb. Great
Like
thought
just
process.
on based of raw numbers.
Right, right. Awesome, awesome. So, what's your name? Sorry.
I'm Amritansh.
Okay, thank you, Amritansh. So both Manas and Amritansh gave like great answers. So if I went and asked like an ordinary person, right, someone from maybe like an arts background, they would just give like a generic answer, like, I'm quite good in software development. I have like relevant projects, so it'll be easy for me to get. Another person, no, he maybe just be pessimistic and he thinks market conditions are bad, I won't get. Another person may be thinking like whatever happens, jo hoga, we'll see. So like that also there may be an ordinary person. But as a data scientist, you should be like adding data points to your thought process. So both Manas and Amritansh, they had a good way of breaking down the problem. So Manas had mentioned that I'll be looking at my skill set. So you might be looking at something like, I have 6 months of experience in React JS and Java, which only like 5% of my peers have. So he was mentioning about like how he compares against the peers, right? So that was like a good thought process. And Amritansh had mentioned about like looking at the CGPA, looking at the median CGPA, what are the total number of job openings or super dream offers. So a data scientist is pretty much like added like data points and thought about the problem in a more quantitative and logical way. So if you look at this reasoning at the end, I've like pretty much put like a random number around 70%. You may get like it's just a random number, but the way the data scientists reach this answer is by combining three domains pretty much. So he combined the domain of mathematics and statistics, he combined the domain of business knowledge, and he combined the domain of computer science. So basically your business knowledge is quite important. Without it, you can't make assumptions like only 5% of the students know React or Java, or you can't make assumptions like this is the median CGPA without like having domain expertise. So you combine that with like probabilities. So like let's say there are 100 openings, and each interview has 3 rounds. So let's say there's a 30% chance you clear each round. So the chance of clearing a company is zero point 0.3 into zero point 0.3 into zero point 0.3. So pretty much like you added the concept of probability and some maths into your reasoning. So both maths and business knowledge cannot be scaled without IT. So where the computer science aspect comes into the picture is like, you know, how you're going to get the data, placement data of all the 1,000 students or like 5,000 students in the college. So how are you going to calculate the median, very efficiently? So you can't go and compute it one by one, right? So computer science helps with like efficiently processing the data and making the data more presentable. Maybe like you create a portal in which it says your chances like 70%, 60%, something like that. So combining these three domains is what data science is all about. And you should ideally, in case you're like stuck, you could always think, okay, this is what I'll be doing in IT terms, this is what I need to get in terms of my domain expertise, and this is what I'll be doing in the domain of maths. So, without further ado, let's just talk about the various industry verticals in India. I mean, these are quite common. You might have also seen both in like software development, data science. These are some of the popular industries in India. So, if you have like healthcare, insurance, retail, supply chain, finance, manufacturing. So, we will just talk about like what are some of the popular companies. Like maybe some of you could name like one or two companies in healthcare. That's coming in the placements. Maybe a third year could try naming one or two companies in the healthcare industry. Anyone? Any third years here?
I have heard about like Striker working on like medical equipment and things like that.
Okay, good.
I'm not really sure about like medical industry coming for placements.
Right. So, I mean, there are some companies like, there's Optum, there's United Health, there's Providence. So these are some of the, major companies. So even in our placement, I think at least in my batch, these companies visited. So these are great companies. And in fact, some of the companies like Optum, I think they even hire for data science roles. So in insurance industry, you have something like Policy Bazaar, GoDigit, and so on. Retail supply chain, you might be familiar with Flipkart, Amazon. Finance, you have JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, some of the popular companies. Manufacturing, there are like some companies which take up like projects from the various manufacturing industries. So those are some of the popular companies and popular industries in which data science is being used. So in these industry, what are some of the business use cases that are being used? Let us just look at some examples to get an idea of what are the various practical applications that are being used. So some of the business use cases that are being used is solving the problem of prediction, solving recommendation problems. In the insurance industry, it may be something like recommending an insurance to a particular customer based on his, various profile. You have the problem of like pattern or anomaly detection. You could also generate like actionable insights in the sense that you look at the trends and you say that X% of people want this, like, so you generate like actionable insights that are useful for driving business. Then there's also the problems of automation and segmentation. So these are the broad kind of problems that the industry is solving. And if you look at a couple of examples, so in healthcare, right, one common problem that is being solved is prediction of diseases or prediction for disease prevention. So something like detecting diabetes, detecting tumor. You might have done this in your college course as well. Like during your coursework, many people work on data science. So something simple that you have done in college is what is being done in the industry as well, albeit at a larger scale with like more data, with more precision, and lesser room for error, pretty much. And if someone else is, let's say, interested in the finance industry, so now recently there have been articles saying that the humans in the finance industry are pretty much irrelevant. There's like a lot of fear factor going on about all these like algorithmic trading systems which can pretty much process the entire data that is available in the network or the internet, create actionable insights, and quickly make automated trades, and pretty much improve the efficiency. So if you look at this whole slide, you might see like one or two use cases or one or two industries that you might be interested in. And in case anyone is interested in specific one of these industry, maybe we could talk about in more detail, or we could move on to the next slide. So is anyone like particularly interested in any of the field? Maybe like finance, many people are interested, or insurance. Like, is anyone interested in a particular domain?
Sir, there is one thing that I'm particularly interested in,
Okay.
like management consulting. But I don't
Right.
know much about what management consultants exactly do. I just know that they travel a lot and they crack those deals with major corporations on behalf of their company. So, could you tell me a little bit more in detail about what do management consultants do?
So yeah, like management consultant, like let's say I'm the government of India. Okay, so I'm like doing a project, so I need to like expand my highway network. Okay, and like I need some ideas on how can I go about managing my project. So I have like 1,000 crores. So how do I put this 1,000 crore into use? Like what kind of a market is there? So if I want to build my road, who are going to be the suppliers of the tar, who are going to be the suppliers of the raw material? So I need a whole market research. I need like actionable items. I need a plan to manage my whole project. So I'll be going to like a major consultancy firm. Popular firms are like McKinsey, Bain and Company. These are some of the companies that are providing management consultancy services. So I'll just go to a company like this and I'll ask them like, what can I do? And pretty much as a management consultant, you'll be tasked with like drafting all of these possible solutions for them, and you will be going and meeting all the stakeholders. So let's say you are as a management consultant, you're working for the government of India, you'll be like going and meeting the ministers, or you'll be going and meeting the contractors and so on. So that's how you like get to travel a lot, stay in those fancy 5-star hotels, and but it does take like a lot of work. So I think that's what management consultancy is all about.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Anyone else interested in any specific like domain? Okay, so if no one else has any questions, then we could move on. Just in case, then if at any later point of time also you're interested or you want to stop me, please free to stop me as then when I'm speaking. We'll just have a brief chat. I think those kind of chats will be more interesting than whatever I'm presenting in the PPT. So please free to ask some questions along the way. So now let's say like you get an internship at some firm, and let us like understand how the whole process is going to be, like through the process of a case study. I think some of you are second years. So just through this case study, I'm going to tell you how the experience is going to be like, what is going to be the expectation from you, and how can you go about breaking down a problem. So let's say you got an industry in the finance, let's say you got an internship in the finance industry or in a banking company, and they come and ask you, design a signature verification for me. Bank customers, they are coming and signing some forms, so they put a couple of signatures. So with these three signatures, I want you to design a signature verification system that will tell whether this is a legit signature or whether it's fake. So this is the problem statement that they're coming up with, and you are tasked to solve this in your internship. So let's say you got hired in a company like this. Generally, the team size might be something like 4 to 6 members. So there's generally like a business analytics unit or like a data science unit in bigger companies. If it's a smaller company, they might like just have the dev team, the software development team. They only like take up these specialized roles. So in a team, generally there'll be like a manager, there'll be like a data scientist who handles the modeling and all the major aspects of the process. So there's the business analyst who comes up with the requirements. So like I just basically told you the problem statement, right? That you are getting 3 sample signatures and you design a signature verification system. And if you do this, this is going to be like the improvement in our efficiency, and this is how it's going to benefit the business. So we're going to save so much money. So such I know the collection and communication of data with the business side is done by the business analyst. Then you may have like software development engineers. So software development engineers are generally generalists. So you might be asked to take more specialized hat from time to time. You may have data engineers who deal with data management aspects. So these are some of the members that might be there in your team. So what these team members will be expecting out of an intern, generally speaking, is in general, your work is not going to be that complicated. It's going to be to simplify the work of seniors. So everyone's occupied with their own thing. The manager is like having 10 things to do. So they're going to expect you to come and simplify things. So just be like proactive, take initiative, go and talk to more people. the manager doesn't have time to go and sit with 10 different people. So if you go and get the inputs from these different people and ease their work, that sounds good. So that is the general expectation. And on a technical side, you may be expected to do something simple like data collection or exploratory data analysis. You may be asked to do some simple modeling. You will have relatively like simple data, so the modeling complexity will also be kind of like limited, generally speaking. Then one more important thing that interns usually do is like documentation or reporting. I myself know like a couple of data science interns who are like drafting like policy, like they've already built a model, and they need to like take the technical reports and make it more presentable to the business side. So they'll be working with the business analysts. So these are some of the typical work that comes up. So in a hypothetical situation, you might look at something like Python, Keras, Azure, and Power BI tech stack. So I think many of you might be familiar with what each of these does. So Python is going to be your programming language. Keras is going to be your deep learning framework. Azure is going to be your cloud in which you're going to store all the data or store your ML models and do all your ML ops. And Power BI is nothing but a business analytics tool. So it's very helpful for generating the visualizations and especially helpful for the reporting purposes. So any questions on this? So hopefully this gives you an idea on how an average internship experience is going to be looking like. So this is especially for the second years. Third years, I'm pretty sure you guys have already done your internship. So any questions? Okay, so let's move on. So let's say you are tasked with this problem statement of like designing a signature verification system. How do you approach this problem as an intern? So as you can see in the diagram, we start with like business understanding, then we go into like an analytical approach. And within the analytical approach, we have like gathering the requirements, collecting the data, understanding the data, from all the way to like, deployment, evaluation, and feedback. So you will start off by ideally formulating the right question. You could like get all the technical information from Google or any kind of reference, but I'll just want to like give you the thought process on how you would go about each of these stages. So like let's say it's the initial stages of your internship, and like it's going to be all about like understanding the problem and coming up with the requirements, right? So ideally you should be asking questions like, what is the scope of the project? So what are going to be the timelines, whether it's going to be like 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 month, how much of that is going to be development time, how much of that is going to be feedback time, testing time, and so on. So we'll also be looking at the various approaches and the feasibility of the project. You have to be asking who are going to be the stakeholders, who are going to be the end users. If I'm presenting my project, who is going to be responsible for your project? Is it your manager? Is it your director? So who are the stakeholders? You'll also be clearly defining the success criteria, saying that my model should like correctly predict at least 70 to 80% of the time. So if you make a model that works for 70 to 80% of the time, then that is considered to be a success criteria, and this is something that you should define. And you should also be asking about some of the edge cases that is not so intuitive. So you need to like, in case some edge cases they are not clearly intuitive, you might have a way of thinking and you go and design a solution, and at the end they come and tell you, why is this case not handled, why was this not thought of? That should not happen. So you should be clearly thinking of all the edge cases, and you should go and ask and clarify it right at the beginning. So that will be the most helpful. Then the second part would be, once you formulated the right question, how do you go about collecting the data that is necessary to solve the problem? So either the data is already available, or you have to go and collect the data yourself. These are the only two solutions. So the data can be available in the sense, they might give you some data set, or they might give you some test data or dummy data, or you might have to go and prepare a survey. So if you have to go and prepare a survey, your job is more complicated. You have to just decide like how many samples to take, in each sample what kind of data points to capture, so all these various aspects you have to decide. So if it's a signature, for my problem, whether is it okay if I just capture the signature? Should I capture the height, width, the speed at which the person is like signing the signature? Should I capture the strokes? So these are some of the things that, based on the problem, you'll have to like break it down. So once you've collected the data, the next important and the most cumbersome part is going to be like data wrangling or data pre-processing. So it is quite easy to like even collect the data, or it's easy to like have the data set and do like some EDA. if someone gives you, but to make it in a format that is like suitable for modeling, it is quite difficult. You have like a lot of like wrong information, you have like wrong columns, and you need to like spend a lot of time to process the data to make sure that when you fit it in the model, it pretty much gives you actionable and quality insights. So most of your time, at least in my experience, most of my time has been spent on data pre-processing, and pretty much choosing what kind of data would be best for our model. So at this stage, you'll also be like looking at how to handle some of the data engineering aspects. So let's say like whether to keep all the data in one place. So let's say you have like 1 million records, you break it down into 10 different files, you store those 10 files in cloud, you store it in DB. So these are some of the choices that you'll be making at this stage. So you'll also be dealing with some data engineering aspects. And data engineering is nothing but just the management of data. So like you'll be like looking at skills like SQL, you'll be looking at skills like cloud. You may be familiar with a platform called Databricks. So these are some of the tools that are related to data engineering. And the final and the most one of the most important parts is nothing but the data analysis and the modeling. So you'll have to go ahead and design the machine learning model through the data that you have prepared. So you'll be like making some calls, like whether to go for like a different model for different user, one model for all user. You'll be deciding what kind of model to use. So for the solution, you will be thinking like it's a signature verification system, you're dealing with images, so some offshoot of convolutional neural network or CNN might work. So if you like maybe find that it's a CNN, then you could always go and refer to Kaggle or Google Scholar for your specific use case. Go to Google Scholar, just see like what kind of approaches that they are proposing, and let's say they say some hybrid variation of CNN. You go note that all down, then you go refer the code in Kaggle if there's anything similar, and you could like just go about implementing it. So that's how an average intern experience in data science looks. So hopefully through the case study, you guys got some idea. So any questions on this, guys? Anyone? So anyone like doing the internship, feels that something is not correct, like you had a different experience, different expectations, maybe you are tasked with building more complex models. Anyone like that?
I felt that collaborating with a lot of team members is something like I wanted to get a better insight on, because as even in this case study the team is of 4 to 6 people, but
Correct.
for example it always probably is the case that a person is breaking more ground in a field than the others. So how can you collaborate effectively on something like that? Because if you want to, even one person or 2 people can complete it, but as a team you don't want to overwork yourself and divide your tasks evenly. So how are we tackling that?
See, collaboration would ideally be like people already have tasks going on, right? So in an internship, it's like a completely separate project, and they do not want to invest the time of like the full-time employees, so they just hired you, and they'll just give you a problem statement, and it's up to you to like go and ask like the business analyst like what the role is going to be all about, and it's up to them to like break down the problem. It's you don't have to worry about like how the problem is being broken down. So it is generally up to the manager to like understand that so these are the formulating the question, data collection, then data wrangling. So all these must be done in so and so timeline. He will be like breaking it down, and he'll be like ideally guiding you. So if you are talking about formulating the question, go and talk to the business analyst. So you are supposed to get a guidance, something like that. And let's say you are supposed to go with data pre-processing, go and talk to the data analyst. Of course, not every company has like an individual role for each of these task processes, but in general there'd be like someone with an expertise. Maybe it's a software engineer who has like an expertise in data analysis. So it's up to like the manager generally to like guide you regarding the collaboration aspects, that this person, go and talk to him and get this done. So that's how generally collaboration works. And the task can be broken down in the sense that pretty much like I told you, right, formulating the question, data analysis. So pretty much you have like 4 to 5 subsets of problems, and like maybe like for different ones you go and collaborate with different people. So that's how I feel generally collaboration in the industry works. So hopefully that answers.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, any questions? on the case study. Okay, so let's then move on to like what are the various practical career paths in India. So before we go and talk about the various specifics on how you can take your career forward from the BTech level, we'll first understand what the role of the data engineer, data scientist, data analyst, business analyst. You might hear all these different keywords. Are you guys able to hear me? I think my network got cut. Is it
Yes,
okay
so
now?
we can hear you now. Yes.
Right. So yeah, before we go ahead, with the practical career paths in India, that how you're going to take it up from the BTech level, we'll be looking at what the various responsibilities of data engineer, data scientist, business analyst, data analyst. So you might keep hearing all these various names. So there are like subtle differences between all of them. First, let's just understand what are the various differences. So pretty much whatever data science projects that you're doing in college, right? You're going and getting the data, you're processing it, you're generating models, you might be looking at hackathons and so on, right? So that's the job of data scientist. So he handles it end to end. So yeah, if you remember, I was talking to you about like combining mathematics, combining like IT, and combining business knowledge. So he'll be dealing with all aspects. Whereas a business analyst, he'll be only dealing with like the business aspects, coming up with the requirements. One guy asked, like, how about the management consultants, right? So something like a management consultant kind of job a business analyst will be doing, that he'll be coming up with new requirements, that this is what we should be doing to grow our business, and this is cut down cost like this, the feature must have so and so requirements. So he'll be coming up with requirements like these. And a data engineer will be someone who's dealing with the data management aspects, that how can we go about storing all the large amount of data that we are using for an ML model. So let's say like that's what you have, like 10 million records, 100 million records. How do you effectively manage that? Whether you store it in the cloud, whether you store it in like NoSQL, SQL. So all these various aspects are handled by the data engineer. There's one more called the data analyst. So that's like a mini version of the data scientist. So generally people handle like simple exploratory data analysis, data pre-processing, and all these kind of aspects for a project. So that is what a data analyst is all about. So generally expectations from BTech student is going to be like basic knowledge, like Python or R. So these are programming languages that are being used in the data science industry. You should have like relevant academic background, something like computer science, EC, or anything relevant pretty much. Then you should have like interview level knowledge, basic algorithms and gradient descent, all these like basic concepts you need to know. It's better to have like one project or one internship, and if you build your Kaggle profile. So internships also really helps a lot. I know this is generic, but like one thing that I've observed is it is quite difficult to directly break through in the data science industry. So I've seen a lot of people in my batch go through like things like hackathon, or they come and give you like a real-time project. So give you like 2-3 days and they tell you to like implement like a small project. So the interview looks something like that. But I've noticed that alternative interviews like this are far more in number and more effective to get a job in this industry than direct applications. Of course there are like direct applications and direct placements as well, but it's relatively limited is what I'm coming to tell. So yeah, that's about like the kind of expectations from the BTech students. So any questions on this?
Sir, you
Yeah.
mentioned that projects are necessary. So, what kind of projects would you suggest? Because the main problem with data science is that you don't get relevant kind of data. So, what projects would you suggest?
So generally, right, what I would suggest is you should go with like a full stack project, and you should incorporate aspects of data science into it. So that way, like you're keeping like a very broad profile. You can like apply to SD jobs as well, and you can apply to data science jobs as well. So ideally, what you should try to do is do a full stack project. You pick like a problem. For example, let's say like you are making an app on like tourism or whatever. Let's say in that there might be like several sub problems, right? like what are the best flight costs or whatever, that you optimize using AI. So let's say there are like 10 million records and you optimize some part using AI. So that is what is going to be beneficial for you from a breadth perspective. But if you're looking very specific to data science, I want one project that needs to be like pure data science, this is what I'm looking all about, then you just go and take a look at Kaggle. So I'm pretty sure that Kaggle has like a lot of data sets. Getting data should not be that much of a problem. The problem is getting the quality data. So how you're going to transform whatever data is available into something that's like actionable for your use case, that is obviously a question. At like the BTech level, I don't think you can go ahead and do that much of like a survey, and that becomes a very big project. So ideally, you should be sticking with Kaggle. So whatever data sets are there, maybe a person has already solved one problem, so you solve an offshoot of that problem, or you improvise on that problem. So those are some of the kinds of projects that would be like practical to implement. But of course, you could like go and do a survey for yourself. And for example, let's say like you want to do a project on like biometrics, how effective that is. So you go and ask like 100 people like what kind of biometric you use in your phone. So you go do all this kind of survey, capture it, then fit the model. Obviously that is possible, but it's more cumbersome. That's what I would suggest.
Thank you, sir.
So on that, there's one more question in the chat by Darshan B.
Okay.
He says he's from the 25 batch and his placements have started. And the roles so far are the soft SD ones. And he needs clarification on when do DS or ML roles start coming. And is it a good number of roles or less roles or something along those lines?
I would say generally in the market, right, the number of data science openings is quite less. At least to the BTech level, it would be quite less. So like, let's say out of like, you take a look at like some 300, 400 companies, out of that sample space, maybe like 10 to 20 data science roles might be there. Most of the jobs in the industry are obviously going to be like software development roles, right? So it is limited. So you should be looking at avenues like hackathon. If I'm not wrong, there are like some companies like Optum, and some of the people from our batch, they got hired through like a hackathon. So you should be looking at avenues like that rather than like a direct placement. So because the numbers are quite limited, to be honest.
I hope that clears up his doubt. Darshan, if you want, you can unmute and talk to Sadak as well. Okay, he says it helps.
Thank you. It helped actually.
Yeah. So right, actually he was mentioning, right, most of the as he mentioned, like most of the jobs that he's seeing is software dev, and that is very true. So if you look at the whole like possible career paths in this image, right, so you start at BTech CSE, and going directly as a data scientist is, it's going to be hard. Okay, so that it's possible, I'm not saying it's impossible. My friends have also cracked it, but it is quite limited and hard. Generally they require higher qualifications like MS or PhD. But what is more practical is you look at like job like software development, you get like a couple of years of experience. uh, if you're lucky enough to get in like a Python based company, maybe you could directly transition. If not, you need to like go for an additional qualification. Or what you could do is you could like go as a business analyst. Anyone sitting for placements, they might like look at like a lot of business analyst roles, like a lot of consultancy companies, and even companies like Cisco, ENY, Deloitte. So all these companies, I believe they are like hiring for business analyst role. At least when I was in college, they were it came up during the placement. So maybe you could go join there for again like 1 or 2 years of experience, and then quickly shift to data science after additional qualification. One thing to note, that if you go and join as like a business analyst, it starts to quickly diverge from the technical side. So you become less and less technical as the years go by. So you need to be like taking a quick decision on like your higher studies. So that's my general observation. So apart from that, there are like some openings for data engineers. So this and data analyst, at least it keeps popping up in like the job openings here and there. You could always go on LinkedIn and see. So you will see more of data analyst, business analyst, data engineer at the like fresher level rather than a direct data scientist. So these are some of the key takeaways. And the direct path is going to be, if you join as a data analyst, there's a very high chance that you can move to a data scientist. So if you're able to land that job, you are very much on the right track. If not, you might have to in most cases go for some additional qualification if required. There might be cases in which your project or your work is like very relevant or very much related to like data science like fields, like you work on Python or something like that. You work on like key cloud infrastructure. So I mean, these are relevant skills, so there's a small possibility, but generally, as per my experience, I've seen people go for like higher studies before they can move forward. So anyone has any questions on questions or even your opinions, like business analyst is hard, anything like what's your thought process? Please feel free to share your ideas. Yeah. Anyone?
Hello, sir. I have a question regarding working at a place.
Yeah.
So, sir, one with the increasing amount of data and like concerns over data privacy, like
Correct.
if you consider a scenario where like you're interning at a company or working with a client and they have very sensitive data and they don't allow you to work with cloud services. Like, for example, you need to train your ML model or fine tune an LLM. They don't like want you to use a cloud service because of data privacy, and also they don't want the data to move out of their existing um, hardware infrastructure. So as an intern, like what solutions can we possibly have? Because one, convincing a firm or a company to improve their hardware or buy new hardware just for your project is very hard. And obviously, they told that you can't use a cloud service like AWS or Google Cloud. So, like, what are the possible solutions for a pipeline for training? I mean, one particular method which I figured out was cryptography. So, where you encrypt your data set in whatever strategy, which and it's only accessible to your model. But I would like to know your opinion on what else can we do.
Okay, so you could like obviously encrypt. That's a very nice thought process, but the meaning of the data, it might get lost. Like let's say they're sharing you like a data set, okay, and they like encrypt the column name, they encrypt like the data itself. So it's like point 0.5 or something. They just encrypt it, and you can't make any reasonable deductions, or you can't do any exploratory data analysis from that, right? So you are pretty much left clueless onto what columns do I choose, what weightage do I give to what column. You're pretty much left clueless. So while that's like sounds like a very practical approach, now that also has its limitations. So like if privacy is like a big concern, and yeah, in some industry, like especially like in finance, they have a lot of concerns on privacy. So even like I faced such issues before, and I pretty much solved that by like going with like dummy data, or just going with my own surveys pretty much. I don't know what kind of data the data size you're looking at. So what is the amount of data you're looking at? Is it like 1 lakh, 10,000, 1 lakh, 1 million, 10 million? What are you looking at?
Sir, it's approximately to 1 million data points, around that range.
Right. So the only practical solution I see is like you go in office. So if it is your internship in office, so if you are going there, you're present in the office, and the only way is like you get hardware from them. Reasonable hardware, or like if the company has like a server, proper like server with like high specifications, right? So many companies, to serve their applications, they will have like an application server. So with like 128 GB RAM, 256 GB RAM, something like that. So maybe you could ask for like a virtual machine in one such server, and you could make sure that the hardware, you're not like taking the data away from the hardware, but still you're getting access to like quality hardware with like high RAM, high GPU, and so on. So that seems to be the only reasonable solution in my opinion.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anything else, guys, about the career paths, how you can go about it, about the relevancy of like higher studies, about the hackathons, anything like that?
So I have a question.
Right.
Yeah. So earlier you were mentioning about having a Kaggle, like using Kaggle. So how much do you think Kaggle will help us when it comes to the placements and stuff?
I don't think it is going to be much from a placement standpoint, but obviously, if you're going for like hackathons, right, you're competing against like the open market. There'll be like people with like 2 years, 3 years experience also who are coming into the hackathon. So when you're going into the open market, you should make sure that you leave like no ticks unchecked, right? So in that way, it's better to have a Kaggle than not have a Kaggle. So that's why I was suggesting. But if you are realistically looking at placements, I mean, I think it's more about your projects, internships, and how you clear your interview, right? So it's more about like clearing the interview at the BTech level. So if you do get the opportunity, then that is a weightage, but I wouldn't call it like that big. That's what. So getting the opportunity is the main problem, I would say. Unlike SDE, getting the opportunity to have an interview, that is going to be the hard part. So if you do get that, just make sure that you have all the aspects possibly covered from your side, so that way you will maximize your chances. That's what I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So anything else, guys? Third year guys who have like seen the placements, hopefully you guys have seen some business analyst roles, some data engineering roles at least pop up. So anyone can attest to that. Like at least you've seen some business analyst roles in the placements or in the LinkedIn market or something like that.
Actually, since you said LinkedIn, how
Yeah.
useful is that? How much of that is actually they do consider while looking at you as a person?
Right. So LinkedIn, right, at the fresher level, it used to be good, but now it's quite competitive, I would say. So like, generally a job application opens up and immediately there's like 1,000 applicants or 500 applicants, and there's like a lot of competition at the fresher level. So generally, if you go ahead and look at the openings, many of the openings will have like at least like 2+ years, 3+ years, something like that. The requirements are there. Obviously, there are like a lot of jobs for freshers. But I think the more practical way is like to go through your placement cell. But always there are chances. Like even in my batch, there are people who like directly applied. So they had some offers, but they applied for like more aspirational companies like in Fang or something like that, and they were able to get a job. But I would say it's much more difficult, especially at the fresher level. It is quite competitive nowadays. That's what I'd say.
But do placement cells actually consider how much active are you on LinkedIn? Because I see people go ahead and have the same cliched post, I am thrilled to join this, I am thrilled to have done this. It's always the same thing. How much do they actually see your profile? Because is there a point to build such a high profile?
I think you should have a presentable profile, but obviously at the placements, right? People are just going to be looking at your resume. They're going to be like maybe looking at your projects. Then they're going to be looking at your CGPA, like your internships and so on. So LinkedIn, it comes more into the picture. Let's say you're looking for for an internship and you're going and messaging people in the industry. You have to make sure that if someone is giving you a referral, he takes a look at your profile. He's like, wow, this guy looks good enough. I can trust this guy with a referral. So you need to have that kind of like an image, right? So in that way, for internships is very useful. But for placements, I don't know, like during the interview, at least many people generally they don't see that much, as per my opinion. But yeah, like once you get hired, maybe the HR will go through your profile, right? So before they do the onboarding, they'll go through all your socials, they'll look at your profile. So that time it's good to like have a good profile. But as far as the interviews are concerned, you're pretty much putting the same thing in your LinkedIn as your resume. So people will be going off more on your resume than your LinkedIn. So yeah, those are my takeaways. So placements less important, internships very important to have a presentable LinkedIn. And yeah, so that's about it.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, let's move on. As many of you asked relevant questions, we always have the question: what can we do to like improve our chances? In the general like market, DSA and system design is king. So it is like the most important skill that you need to have. If you can't solve the DSA question, then you don't even get a chance to like sit with the interviewer and whatever super software development skills you may have. You may have experience in React, Java, you build like a whole full stack application. Nobody's even going to take a look if you're not able to like solve the DSA round. So it is the most important thing that you need to focus on as far as the general market is concerned. Your CGPA also matters. So many companies, I think they have a cutoff for the CGPA. So make sure that you have at least a decent enough CGPA. Then one more thing is, as far as presenting the project is concerned, so I had mentioned, right, the companies will be like mostly looking at your projects. So make sure that you go ahead and host that project in some online forum. So you host it somewhere and you give the interviewers an interactive interface. Generally, people don't have that much time in an interview, so you're spending like half an hour maybe with the person. He's just going to like go ahead and see how the interface looks like. He's maybe going to click like a couple of buttons and see what the various features are, right? Also make sure that in your GitHub, wherever you're putting the code, you put like a proper documentation with like nice clean screenshots, because no matter how clean your code is, how well you like organized it, what your coding standards are, people generally don't have the time to go and read how good your code is in an interview. So they'll be mostly judging you based on your like how the UI looks, how you like documented the project, whether you like put like flow diagrams, sequence diagrams, all these things. That's how people will be judging you. So make sure that you host and document your projects. Apart from that, yeah, like reach out on LinkedIn, especially for internships. Placements also, you could go ahead and apply for jobs. While it is like relatively limited, there's always like a good chance for software development jobs. There are like thousands of opening. So if you go ahead and see in LinkedIn, there'll be like 1 lakh open jobs. You just apply your filters, that I'm a fresher, I have so and so tech stack, this is what I'm looking. There'll still be like thousands of jobs across India for which you could like apply. So just make sure that you utilize LinkedIn, and make sure that you're presentable on all platforms like GitHub as well. And maybe if you have like a coding profile, like something like a lead code or hacker rank, make sure that is also like well presentable. So those would be some takeaways. Any questions on this? Okay, so I guess we can move on. So let's talk about the job market trends as of 2024 in India. So the last couple of years, it was like more of like happy years in which a lot of hiring was going on. The industry was growing at like a good pace, like between 2022, 20 and 2020 and 2022. But I would say this year it has been like quite rough. So there have been like a significantly lesser number of openings in the industry. It's also like growing at like a relatively slower pace. uh, so the general trend is that it is more competitive at junior levels compared to like the previous years. So hopefully things get better in the future, but at least for this year, it has been like quite competitive and quite rough. Then like another thing that people might be thinking of is like masters. So another choice that they may be making is like whether to stay in India or go abroad. So if you are like thinking of masters, so can I just have like a quick poll, or just like a shout out on how many people are planning for masters? Maybe like couple of you may be planning, right? Any of you? Any more? Joshua, how many people are have pinged? Actually, I can't see the number.
3 people. That is
Oh,
Aditya, Hitesh, Mopsy, Manas. Oh, 4.
superb, superb. So Manas, Aditi, everyone, will talk in more detail. So generally, I'll just give you a brief overview that abroad it's great exposure. The quality of education is great, but it is also quite expensive. So it's like more of a high risk, high reward game financially. So depending on your situation, you'll have to take that call, right? So because you look at like the tuition fees in US, it's like average around like 60, 80 lakhs, and even like 1 crore for some universities, right? So whether you can like financially do that, so that's a call that you have to take. And the general trend is, apart from US, if you look at other countries and you go look at the salaries, it is not going to be that much far different from India, at least when you do the PPP terms, right? So when you do the purchasing power parity, that in INR I'm earning so much, I'm going to like abroad, so XYZ country. And when you do that, you may not see that much of a jump. So ideally we should be looking at more of things like the lifestyle, how the job market there is, whether it's less competitive, better working hours. So things like that will take more dominance rather than the financial aspect. Maybe like 20 years ago, the gap between the Indian industry and the abroad industry, it was like so huge that going abroad was like a no-brainer. But nowadays, let's say you get like a good job here, well high-paying job, and you're happy with it, then I mean, you'll have to really think whether you need a master's or not. One more aspect to think about is like what are your long-term prospects in like the various countries. So whether you're going to be getting the visa or the PR. So you look at countries like US, right? You go for masters, you are spending like 70, 80 lakhs, and pretty much they give you like 2 months to 3 months of time to get a job. And if you don't get that, you have to come back to India, right? And that 70, 80 lakhs of investment, it's going to be hard to like recover that here. So you might have to look at the visa or the PR aspects. Other countries, they may be more eager to take in. They may like offer you a PR. So whether you're looking for like short term or long term, that's a call that you have to make. Be aware of all the decisions and all the factors and make a decision. So some of the popular options are like US, UK, Australia, Germany, and Canada. So I believe like around 3, 4 people they've like raised their hands. So if you don't mind, could you share which country you're planning for and which course you're planning for? Let's maybe have a brief chat on that. Manas, maybe you could go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, right now, I feel like my capabilities, they are more aligned with, going for GMAT or maybe going for MBA for my
Okay.
master's.
Okay.
So, but there is like a bit of a confusion there, and also there is a wide fee gap between, I suppose, between MS and MBA. There is a significant gap between the fees, so that is also a factor which needs to be considered. And also right now I'm seeing that has become more popular in
Yes.
recent times.
Exactly.
I'm seeing a lot of people going to Australia
Exactly.
for doing MS or MBA.
Correct.
So I was curious about knowing that what is Australia offering, which is better compared to US, UK, which were the more relevant options from the past.
Right. So you're very right. Australia is becoming like a very popular option. So if you look at US, right, you're making like a huge investment with no certainty. So I mean, you get a job, okay, and get a job at Google, and they submit, they are sponsoring your visa, and you don't get in the H1B lottery. It doesn't matter if you went to Harvard or you went to Google or whatever. If you don't get the H1B, you're back to India with that 80 lakh loan, right? So it's like a high risk, high reward game in the US. If you look at like other markets like Canada or UK, the economy is in like bit of a recession, and generally people are finding it harder to find a job nowadays than before. So even those are becoming less popular. But if you look at Australia, the fees is firstly not that much. So in US, if you're looking at like 60, 70 lakh, in Australia you may be looking at something between like a 35 to 50 lakh range. And it's also very easy to get scholarships. I've noticed people around me going to like the group of 8 universities. So if you have done your research, there's like a group of 8 universities in Australia. These are the top universities there, and they are like willing to give people scholarships. I've seen people getting like 20%, 30%, 50% scholarships. So with that, your cost becomes less. Your living expenses doesn't have to be funded by your parents. People can make great money there by working part-time. People are making like 25 to 45 Australian dollars, which is like around 1 lakh, 1.2 lakhs a month, and your expenses can be easily covered by that. Quite easy to get a part-time job as well, unlike like in other countries like UK or Canada. So it's quite easy to get a part-time job and sustain yourself there. That is another point. And the major point is going to be like your long-term prospects, right? So the Australian government, I think they're willing to give PR to computer science students and students from like certain target STEM fields. So they have like a public announcement, right? So we are looking for 300,000 people or so and so number of people from these fields. And if you work here and you meet so and so criteria, which is like relatively straightforward, I feel. If you go and read the visa regulations, it's relatively straightforward. So long term, you may have a future there. So I think these are some of the reasons why Australia is becoming more popular. And apart from that, regarding MS and MBA, I think it's up to you to take a call. Obviously, financially, the fees abroad is very high, and the competition for jobs is also relatively high. So, whether you can take that risk of like investing that 1.1 crore or 1.2 crore or whatever, that's up to you to take. But abroad the salaries are far different than compared to India, right? So you're going to be starting at like 80 lakhs, 70 lakhs in that range in most countries. But you look at India, while your investment is less, your return is also going to be somewhat in the same range. So you end up like spending like 30 lakhs and you're going to be making something along those ballpark, right? So you need to take all these things into consideration, and you have to make a decision. That
Thank
would
you
be
so
my
much,
opinion
sir.
on Australia and MBA. Yeah. Anyone else? Like, I think three other people, they've like raised their hand on going for MS. Anyone else? Any one person we can maybe take?
So I did raise my hand, but I've heard about Germany for masters, and also how it does not have tuition fees or the
Right.
college fees at all, public college universities. So how is Germany as a prospect for masters when it comes to the market, the jobs, and everything?
Right. So Germany is a good option in the sense that you get like great education and exposure. The job market for computer science, I would say it is good, but obviously it is uncertain. There's like no guarantee that you'll go and get. So I would say it's a little bit uncertain as per at least the people I've seen in among my peers. Right. Some of them, they are like struggling a little bit, but your investment is very less. You get like great quality education, so maybe you could bring that degree back to India and uh, not face that much of a big consequence. So let's say you spend like only 20-30 lakhs. For most people, that may be better off than spending like 70 lakhs. So that's also something that you have to think about. So in that way, Germany is a great option, that it's very affordable. You get like great exposure education, but job market, I mean, it's a little bit uncertain, but obviously it is like a very good market. Just that at least people I have talked to, some of them, they're struggling. So I'm just going off and giving my opinion based on that. That's it.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just quickly talk about some future trends in data science, and we'll be wrapping up this session. So in the future, right, the big picture is going to be that smaller models and simpler operations, they are increasingly becoming irrelevant in favor of like bigger models, bigger companies, and more complex procedures, right? So some of the trends that you might be interested in following up after this session would be like something like auto ML. So when you do your machine learning project, you do like a repetitive process, like feature extraction, choosing like the best features to use, like making a subset of the features. So these are some of the more manual operations, and this can be like automated. So auto ML frameworks like Adanet or AutoScaler, they are helping with that. Then you have generative AI. So I think some people have even worked on generative AI internships here in this seminar. So good stuff. So things like Midjourney, in which you have like text to speech image generation. So generative AI in the image space, one example is Midjourney. Maybe you could go check it out. Then ML operations, as I told, like many people are storing their models in the cloud, maintaining the data in the cloud. So you have something like Azure ML, or also I mentioned like Databricks, right? So people are using these for the ML operations. So it's just like DevOps, but just like DevOps is for software development, we have ML ops for your data science or business analytics and so on. Large language models are also popular. So something like ChatGPT, everyone is using that. So no introduction to large language models is required. One more domain that is like popping up is ethics and policy making. So you could go ahead and check ASM code of ethics and maybe read about like something like Cambridge Analytica scandal. Ethics, policy making, how do we make sure that data science or machine learning, whatever products that we are making, does not like breach ethics, or does not like go out of control. So this is also something that is popping up in the industry. So these are some of the future trends that you could go and follow after this session. So with that, I would like to end this session and make myself open to any other questions. Always feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be sharing you my profile. Please feel free to connect with me and reach out for any help, any referrals, anything like that. So with that, I'm open to any questions. So if you guys have any doubts, you could fire it. Anything generic, you could ask. Yeah.
What is your take on ML ops as a career path right now in India, at least?
Uh, See, already the data science industry, the job, the market is like quite limited. So you are looking at only like 4 to 5 profiles, right? As I told, data scientist, business analyst. So these are the 4 to 5 popular roles that I see. So ML ops, I don't think it is at like a stage yet where people, at least from the BTech level, they can go ahead and get like a job comfortably. So it is like a very niche field. So can't exactly comment on the certainty of how you can go about getting a job. Obviously, if you're like that much focused and you're already in the industry, you could try to make a move. But from the outside market or from college, how you move into that, that's like a bit uncertain, I would say. Hope that answers your question. And if anyone else has any questions, we can try to take it up.
Yeah, it does. The thing is, I was interning as an ML ops engineer, and
Yeah, right.
it was fun stuff, right? So I was looking forward for a career path in that. But that's the thing, as you mentioned, I was even looking into the markets in India right now, and it's very limited. It seems to be really coming up right now. So I was just seeing what are my chances down that career path.
Right, it is coming up. In fact, many people are going and doing like a ISB, Indian School of Business. It's a popular MBA school. They've like recently launched some MBA with business analytics. So people are going and doing that. It's becoming very popular. After that, I see like a lot of people like getting jobs in the industries. In fact, people in my network only have got through such a career option. It is like popping up, but obviously it does not take like a master to just go and look at LinkedIn and compare with like the software development roles, right? Compared to software development, it is relatively limited. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, Joshua, like you can take it forward. If anyone has any questions, like you could maybe forward it to me, or yeah, you could take it up and we can go ahead with the session. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions? You can raise your hands. Come on, this is the completely up to you guys.
I have a question.
Right.
Yeah. So in your last slide, you mentioned so about auto ML and auto sklearn tools, which essentially does all this data science for you. From all you have to do is give it to your data set, and then it does the EDA and all procedures of what is required in fundamental data science. So with such tools becoming more complex and complex, what role do like people who are studying data science have? Like what else should we study to like keep ourselves relevant?
Okay, so see, like this auto ML, right? It's not going to be like solving the problem end to end. So even for auto ML, you will be like telling that, for example, like let's say you are doing like gradient descent. In gradient descent, you'll be like giving your inputs, right? So this will be like the alpha. So you'll be like giving the features. So AdaNet, it just takes like 4 or 5 values and it like automates the process. So still there's a data analyst who's required to decide, I will give 0.1, 0.001, 0.0001. So these are the three that you should like go and test. So there's still a data analyst who is like giving his inputs, and rather than him sitting running the model once, wait 3 hours, come again run it once more. So rather than his intervention in between, he just like gave it the sample space to test beforehand, right? So still a data analyst is required. So it's not like it's from end to end auto ML is going to like take over or something like that. It's just taking up like a small aspect of the job, and I don't see in the next at least couple of years it having such an impact that it replaces like a data analyst completely. That's what I would say.
Okay, I get your point about the it not replacing data analysts completely. But again, you mentioned about the different values of alpha and then a data analyst running an experiment and then coming back to it. Well, at least I'm pretty sure there are tools where like you can just give it a data set, and because you mentioned alpha, you essentially do a hyperparameter sweep, right?
Right,
Uh,
correct.
and I'm pretty sure there are tools which can generate code, run code, and make inferences from the outputs of that code, and
Right,
then predict the next steps or create a plan of what should be the next possible steps, what algorithm it should run. Like, for example, if it detects a class imbalance, then it might possibly run smooth, right,
correct.
to generate the lower thing. So I think that data's data science as a whole, I think it can be mostly automated, but if you look at more higher level, probably as ML ops, then I think it's way more harder for these LLMs to replace us, right?
Right. Yeah, valid points actually. Like there are other tools as well which are like completely doing not fully end to end, but if you give it like the simple problems, right, so it's able to like take care of it completely without like you entering like some inputs as well. That is true. But at the moment, the industry trends, I'm not sure. So we'll have to see how it goes. I don't have a crystal ball to or enough knowledge to comment that how it's going to go in next 2 to 3 years. Yeah, that would be my take.
Sure. Thanks for your insights.
Thank you.
Anyone else, guys? Because we are really past our time, so we would really hurry up this.
So yeah, like if anyone's interested in connecting with me on LinkedIn, I'll just paste it so you guys could connect. Uh, so
We'll
yeah,
also share the link in the group also, I guess, Hariharan.
yeah, sure.
Perfect. So I don't think anyone else has any questions. They can obviously connect to you in case they do have any. So we'll wrap this up session. We can't thank you enough, Hariharan, again for your taking out time out of your work schedule. And I think I say it for this, say this for everyone when I say this. It has been an incredibly informative session and really has cleared up that fog of doubt as we go down our career paths. So really thank you for this. And okay, so that wraps up the event, guys. We will be sharing the recording of this section on our TSC website where you can guys see it. And we also post blogs, technical and non-technical. Technical will be obviously related to data science. So stay updated with that. And TSC will also be soon starting their recruitments. So we have a lot of great departments and strong departments. So projects and research are some departments that can build your profiles and your resumes down this particular marketing in this particular data science career path. So yeah, you guys have been great audience. Honestly, I didn't expect such a high head count this morning. And thank you for your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone.